What's up, guys? It's your man Donovan Sharp, and welcome to this edition of Tea with Tallulah. We normally do this on Thursdays, but the next, at least the next 2 weeks, we'll be doing this show on Tuesdays at this time. I am, of course, joined by the lovely and talented Tallulah from across the pond. How are you doing today, Tallulah?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well. I got a great night's sleep. And you can probably identify with this. The older I get, the more important sleep becomes. And I slept like absolute dog crap. Not last night, but the night before last. And dude, I was weak. I could barely lift weights. So I made sure I went to bed. I think I went to bed at 9:30 last night. Woke up at 5:30. I am revving and ready to go.
Well, I'm very jealous because I just don't sleep.
Oh yeah, you were just telling me about that off the air.
Yeah.
Why do you have trouble sleeping? Is it a medical thing or is it just a stage in your life at this point, I guess?
I think some of it is like definitely a medical to do with some health stuff, but I think the other reason is just once you get problems with sleeping.
Oh yeah.
And mine started probably about 7 years ago. It was really bad.
Oh wow.
And once you get a problem with sleep, that's it. It just seems to be a problem. I haven't slept more than like 4 hours a night maximum for like years.
Are you kidding?
Is hard work.
Wow.
It's exhausting. Yeah.
Holy. I mean, you don't look tired.
Yeah.
Because some women.
That's the beauty of having stuff injected in your face.
Hey man, look.
I do. I can look exhausted. Sometimes people say, "Oh my gosh, you look exhausted,"
Yeah.
It is, and I hear you. Like when you get the sufficient amount of hours, it just makes the gratitude,
huge
right?
difference. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm glad that you're like refreshed and ready.
Oh my god, dude. I'm gonna tell you what. I remember when I was in my 20s, I used to be able to sleep for 2.5 hours, get up, eat breakfast, go play basketball, go to work, play video games, drink all night, get 2.5 hours of sleep, wake up and do it again the next day. It's just, that's just in my 20s. But now that I'm in my mid 40s, I could probably do that. The difference is it would take me probably about 2 weeks to recover rather than 2 hours to recover. That's kind of all their time. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Things are so different in your 20s, right? God. So different.
Boy, oh to be young again. Oh to be young again. Okay, so last week we delved a little bit into, let me think. We delved a little bit into finishing school, and that's what I wanted to talk about today. So in your own words, and I think most people have at least a rudimentary knowledge base in terms of what finishing school is, but talk to my audience about what it is and what the purpose of finishing school is.
So finishing school is slightly different. There's different types of finishing schools, but it's very different to what it was many years ago. Yet a lot of what is taught is still the same. So, for example, in the 1800s, in the early 1900s, there were certain rules that were made to establish where you were as a person in society, and also it was very red pill being at finishing school, because it defines the difference between the feminine and the masculine. It talks about hierarchies. We also touched on, obviously, how you meet and greet elders, where people are sat at the table, who is the most important. Obviously, how to behave as a woman. There was all women on my course, and it was amazing. Being taught how to behave and how you eat, and also how you receive from other people, whether that be other women or men, dependent on the situation. But I'm sure we will get into that for sure. But it's the most magical experience I've ever been on in my whole life, and I would suggest to any girl to go. It's the most beautiful thing, and you learn so much about different cultures
Okay.
as well as your own, and how the rules and regulations go down in other cultures, and how to respect them as a guest when
Okay.
you perhaps go to another country and integrate into their culture.
Now, what's something you learned at finishing school that you didn't know before you went? Is there something that was like, whoa, I did not know that, or wow, I didn't know that that existed, or I didn't know this? Or is there one or more things that you didn't know that you learned while you were there?
Yes, there was. I mean, the sort of basics I knew. That's why I wanted to go so much, and
Okay.
my grandma taught me a lot of it.
Okay.
But I'd say that there were things like we did invites, right? And this would be so cool if you did these for your CME. There were formal invites,
Okay.
and how a formal invite is written. So, for example, if the woman would always, as a rule, take the man's entire full name.
Oh,
So
okay.
it would be the front of the invite would say something like, I'm going to use you and Devon as an example,
Sure.
but it would say Mrs. Donovan Sharp.
Ah, yes. Right.
It was that you completely take your husband's name,
Okay.
and if that was just Devon sending the invite to her girlfriends for, say, afternoon tea,
Mm-hmm.
she would write, Mrs. Devon Sharp, I would be grateful to have your pleasure of afternoon tea at home. And it would be written at home, and then in the side there would be the address. However, if it was yourself and Devon, it would be Mr. and Mrs. Donovan Sharp.
Okay.
But it would never, ever say at home. Visiting at home, because the men were never meant to be at home.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it always had the address written. You would never put, that was a rule that you would never put at home. And it was a rule that the woman always took the name as well. It was absolutely amazing.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was. And we learned about the art of the table. So this is the culture that actually comes in from as far back as the 1800s.
Okay.
And, when there were rules to when you would start eating, there were rules to you don't pick up the bread until the guest at the table has taken their first bit of bread and offers it to the right of them.
So that's like an etiquette.
Yes, it's all etiquette and protocol, yeah.
Wow.
And when you are offered the bread, you take the closest one to you. You don't take the one you want. You have to take the closest one to you.
Okay.
And there were also things where they would really, at finishing school, it was definitely that they would push the difference between the masculine and the feminine and how to receive from those individuals. So the whole thing that's still around a little bit today, of that the man usually will walk on the roadside. If you're both on the sidewalk, he will walk on the roadside. That back then, 1800s, 1900s was a rule.
Okay.
That was to show that you understood the rules, that you were of a high class as well, and that you weren't what's known as a fool. Which was, that you didn't understand the rules and you didn't fit in. And also things, for example, when you put the woman's coat on, is usually, you might find this with Devon even, you'll go to put her coat on her back and she sort of goes like that.
Yeah.
To pull it over. We're not allowed to do that. We have to allow him to fully pull over the coat. We have to trust and not go like that to help him. He does the whole thing himself. Also, with a chair being pulled behind you, you don't look behind you and you don't pull the chair. You have to allow the chair and you have to just trust and sit.
This is incredible. It's interesting because what you're describing is this is gentlemanly behavior. Not only is it gentlemanly behavior, it appears that this teaches women how to femininely receive gentlemanly behavior. So, for example, here in the States, women are, and the thing is this, women, expect gentlemanly behavior. They expect traditional masculinity without being traditionally feminine. So a woman who is crass and loud and she sleeps around, she expects a man to walk on the outside. But men are not going to give women gentlemanly behavior if you don't act like a lady. And that seems to be a point of contention with women. They want this gentlemanly behavior without having to prove that they're a lady first. What are your thoughts on that as it relates to finishing school?
Yeah, I mean, you've got it, Donovan. Absolutely. I mean, it was very much pushed the fact of, for example, we had to do. Here is my workbook. This is the finishing school I went to.
Okay.
So
Okay.
This is the whole workbook we had.
Okay.
However, for example, we had to do an exam, like a questionnaire, and it had 10 scenarios of how you should be dressed.
Okay. Wow.
And it said, Miss Anna, someone goes to a party. She's wearing this hat, this coat, and a knee-length dress with a bracelet.
Okay.
And we would have to answer whether or not it was appropriate for her to be dressed for that specific event that it was referring to.
Okay.
So things like, we were asked to, look at things like, how is her hair? How is her, is she wearing a short length skirt?
Right.
She needs to be more covered up.
Okay.
So that was definitely something we learned there. We were taught, obviously, to receive, the masculine a lot. And because there were women there from other cultures, the girls there were a lot younger than me, but they had come from Paris, they'd come from India, Qatar, all these different places, and they brought their cultures and how the masculine and the feminine are in their cultures, which is very, very different to our westernized world. And what was beautiful there is, there were these young girls coming in and they were 18, 19, and they'd been sent by their fathers, not even the mother, the father.
Wow.
Because the father wants them to be able to, an arranged marriage.
Sure.
There was a girl having an arranged marriage. She said her dad sent her there, and he wanted to have her go straight from the family home, go to finishing school to be able to integrate into serving her husband.
Right.
And yeah, so it was, I'm trying to see here if there was anything else.
I've got plenty of other questions here.
Yes, sure. Please do ask me.
So Devin, who is Devin's in the chat. She's actually getting a manicure and a pedicure, but I guess she's watching. She's watching from the salon. She wants to. Oh, wait a minute. She says, "I slept 10 hours and had to get kicked out of bed." Yes, Devin is not the easiest person to get out of bed. What age should ladies attend finishing school? In your opinion, Tallulah, what age should young women attend finishing school? Is there because you obviously went recently. You're in your 30s when you went. Is there an ideal age for women to go to finishing school, or does it matter?
Yes, definitely. I wanted to go when I was 15, but I wasn't able to at that age.
Okay.
I would say straight out of school, straight into finishing school.
Oh, wow. So as soon as they graduate, do you guys call it high school in Britain?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So straight out of high school.
Senior school.
Oh, senior school. Okay. So right out of high school, straight away go to finishing school.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
And go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, it's fine.
Okay. One other thing about the gentlemanly behavior. What about because we've seen this stuff on cartoons and in old movies where a guy puts the coat over the puddle and the woman sort of walks over the puddle. Is that just kind of a caricature of gentlemanly behavior, or is that something they actually teach women or men in finishing school?
The coat over the puddle. Could you explain that again? As if he puts the coat in the puddle?
Yes. So there's a puddle, right? And it's obviously for whatever reason, I guess the woman doesn't want to walk around it, but the guy takes off his coat, puts it over the puddle, and the woman kind of daintily walks across the puddle. The man picks up the jacket and drapes it over his arm for it to dry out. Is that just a caricature, or is that really real?
No, that's not real. That would, in finishing school, that would be completely inappropriate and rude. Very rude.
Okay.
Yeah. As if they gave us that scenario of it's raining, what would you do? It would more than likely be, we were actually taught what to have in our handbag. So make sure that you have an umbrella, or make sure that he's carrying an umbrella. But you would absolutely not be you'd be taught probably to wear appropriate shoes, but no, you would not be allowing him to almost degrade himself.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And it's interesting because American women, the way they see gentlemanly behavior is a man degrading himself to impress a woman. And again, I'll go right back to what I was saying before. As a woman, you cannot expect a man to treat you like a lady if you're not acting like one. And I think what finishing school does is it teaches women to be worthy of gentlemanly behavior. Am I wrong?
No, that's correct.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Is finishing school difficult? Now, you seem to be very excited and receptive to it. Has there ever been, even though you wanted to do it, were there challenges? Like what were some of the toughest things about finishing school, or was it not difficult for you at all?
There were moments where it got really difficult.
Okay.
Where we would have to start looking at the different tablecloth colors of different countries. So, for example, with your presidents and people of high status in America, usually the tablecloths are colorful, right?
Yes.
You've got greens, you've got reds, things like that. That is the very US culture.
Okay.
But then the UK culture is often white or cream, dependent on the event that there is.
Okay.
So there will be things like that. And also laying a table, because the women obviously were the ones holding the social events at home for their partners and their partners' business associates and things like that. The women would have to understand that. So you'd have to measure whereabouts the cutlery would be.
Yes.
There were different ways to lay the cutlery. Are you doing it Victorian style, English style, French style?
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. Like at the conference, I'll have to show you all the photos of all the different.
Oh, that would be fantastic. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah. But it was, the women's job, I think, and in today's society, so many people say, women had it easy then, and they really didn't. It wasn't. It was a full-time job trying to keep your status in society.
Yes.
You could not embarrass your partner.
Nope.
Your partner had to stay out there working, grinding every single day, to keep your status in the area you were living in. Something like, I don't know, like if a woman was sleeping around or anything like that, right. You'd be like banished from the area.
Wow.
In some cultures, they'd stone her.
Wow. Clearly, that's not happening in the United States. I like that you said being feminine was a full-time job, because the way people here in the States characterize it, well, women were treated with dignity and respect back then, but they're not today. Well, that's because these women were worthy of dignity and respect. Right. And again, I go back to it. You cannot because if a woman doesn't finish finishing school, or if she doesn't learn what it is, she's not going to get selected to be a wife. I mean, am I wrong, or do they go back do women flunk out of finishing school and have to go back? Like, how does that work?
I wouldn't know. I mean, our course, everyone enjoyed it. We had such a great time.
Okay.
It was the the best thing for all of us because we all wanted to be there.
Okay.
You know, there was a girl there that had come from Paris, and she was in her 20s. She had a baby like only 9 months, 10 months before she turned up in England.
Wow.
And she's done it to be able to teach her daughter all of this.
Jesus Christ, man, that is dedication.
And, you know, the girls from, you know, Qatar, from India, they're elegant. They were just pure, elegant women. There was no boisterousness. There was no such thing as OnlyFans. There was no talk of any of this garbage that there is out there in our Western worlds.
Yes.
However, it did annoy me a little bit because they were a bit younger than me. We were specifically told no photos on Instagram. Okay.
Oh God. Yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah, because they were all so young. They all wanted to, you know, photos on Instagram. But they were.
I've been finishing school, you know.
Yes. Oh my gosh! Like honestly, I was the camera woman. That was my name. You take a photo, and I thought, gosh, they want a photo of everything, you know. And it was crazy because that was the difference with the ages, right?
Of course.
The ages of girls. But it was still appropriate. It was still things that they were proud of doing. You know, this is how we make afternoon tea. This is how we host an event. This is how we make people feel good and welcome all the time. It's about being pleasant. It's about being agreeable. It's also massively about like being positive.
Yes.
Like I asked the tutor a personal question. I said, listen, you know, some days I really do struggle with my health and I feel like I go on about it too much sometimes. And she said, it depends on the situation you're with. If you're around friends, that's fine to have that support. But if you are out there and you're around, you know, if you're around like people of importance or an event or anything, you do not say anything.
Yeah, of course. You have to be stoic in that regard, right?
Yeah. And it was all about how to behave when a man's around. It was very good.
Are there certain kinds of women who have a hard time in finishing school? Was it a certain attitude, a certain region? In your experience, what kind of women tended to struggle the most with learning all of the aspects of true femininity?
It's interesting you should say that because the first couple of days there were a few girls that I could tell were slightly like, you know, the minimal rebelling.
Right, exactly. It's like, okay, you know that they're not there for the right reasons, you know?
Yeah, I think they were. But they kind of, there were certain things that were being said where they were like, whoa, what, this isn't what I've been taught.
Yes.
And, you know, just little things like, you know, we were told not to eat when we were, you know, in class and things like that. And one of them sort of started eating. And, you know, we've all got a rebellious side in us that usually comes out when we're not interested in something and we don't want to engage.
Right.
Honestly, it was that magical. And it was in a very, very expensive course as well. That the majority of the girls that were there wanted to be there. They wanted to learn. Good. And the ones that did struggle at first, within a couple of days, they were having the best time.
Okay. Would you say that finishing school is what helped you to get and maintain the attention of your guy now?
I think it definitely helps.
Okay.
It definitely helps. I mean, anyone like him or anyone that I know sort of laughed a little bit when they said, oh, you're actually going to go, you're actually going. I was like, yeah. But, you know, what came, but everyone was fascinated by it, which is really good news. But good. Yes, I would say that it has given me even more, I want to say, ammunition.
Okay.
How to be able to please my partner.
Okay.
In other ways, like if we were to hold an event, our own event or something like that, I could really help contribute towards that in the appropriate way for the type of business that he's in.
Okay.
Which obviously we've spoken about off air. But you know, I have that knowledge now, which is good.
Let me ask you this. How prevalent is finishing school now? Because obviously 100 years ago, just about every female went to finishing school. About what percentage of women these days attend finishing school? I mean, I can't imagine that the percentage is that high these days, is it?
Would you say in the whole world or?
In Britain, let's just because I know in America the answer is a very small percentage. But in Britain, my guess is that it could be slightly higher. But again, Britain is still in the West, and it is influenced by feminism.
I would say about 10%,
Okay.
really.
Okay.
It is coming back very much so. It's getting very, very popular
Oh.
here in the UK.
Okay.
They have many finishing schools here and also in Switzerland.
Okay.
And yeah, it's starting to get more and more popular. I think if the price was um, a little bit more affordable,
Yeah.
I think a lot of British women would go because it was massively as well to do with not only how to behave around people or to behave around your partner, but it was how to integrate with other cultures and how to honor the British culture as well when you have guests.
Is there like a final exam at the end? How do they decide whether you pass or failed? Is there like a party or a gala that you go to where you're observed? How do they make sure that you've retained what they've taught you?
Well, they monitor you like throughout the course.
Okay.
And some stuff is written whilst you're in class. Some things are just how you're engaging in the class and what your questions are or what your answers are when they ask you questions. But then at the end, it was we had afternoon tea as we were doing the last part of the course. And we did about 2 hours of round the robin questions.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Which is a really good way of doing it.
Yeah, of course, because now you don't want to look, you want to let everyone know, hey, I've retained this stuff. I used to watch when I was married before, because I had been married before. My wife and we used to watch a really funny show with Patricia Rutledge called Keeping Up Appearances. Have you ever heard of or watched that show?
Do you know, I've heard of it. I don't think I've seen it, but I've heard of it. Yeah.
It is absolutely hilarious. It's almost, because you know how British comedy is. It's like a caricature of a woman who has apparently gone to finishing school, and she was like a middle class woman who acted like an aristocrat, and it was absolutely hilarious. But she knew all of the etiquette, she knew all of the protocols, she knew all of that stuff. But the gag is that the rest of her family was not like she was, right? In other words, she wanted people to think that she came from this well-to-do family, to the point to where she bought skis just to put on their car to make people think that they skied, even though they've never been skiing. I just thought that was funny.
Oh, wow.
Are there people like that in Britain?
Do you know, I'd say that I see this all the time in in England. I see it in America a lot, is that the more that people parade things they have, like fast cars, they're parading fast cars, all this kind of jewelry, expensive handbags, and it's all going on Instagram or whatever. And it's all, look at me and my fast car, look at my new watch or whatever.
Right.
That's actually really, really frowned upon as inappropriate. It very much shows new money that you actually don't understand the rules and regulations.
Very good.
Yeah,
I remember. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah, and that you don't know the rules and regulations, and that it's actually it's cringeworthy, and it's that you are new money and that you did not come from wealth or understand the rules of society.
I remember the movie Titanic, and I specifically remember this scene where I think they were talking about the unsinkable Molly Brown character. She was right, and I remember it was like a monologue, and she says, "Yes, the unsinkable Molly Brown, all of this extravagant stuff. This is what my mother called new money," and I think that that's probably what you're referring to.
Is exactly what I'm referring to. They did it very, very well in the whole of Titanic. They did the etiquette expert that they had on board for that was huge. I've rewatched it, and the way the introductions are done throughout the movie of the different characters and how you would, like, for example, there's a scene of Rose and Jack, Leo and Kate Winslet,
Yep.
and the mother. And that part where they're on the ship and they're spitting off the ship,
Yes,
aren't they?
right.
Obviously, that's really inappropriate.
Of course it
that
is.
is not, especially then how women behave.
No way.
It could not have been worse. But as soon as the mum turns up, there is a way that when Rose introduces him to her, she says, "Mother, may I introduce Jack Dawson?"
Yeah,
because the mother would have been of higher hierarchy because she was a mother and because she was older, so she receives the introduction.
Okay, that makes perfect sense because Jack comes to us, I think Billy Zane's character comes to us from the lower decks, and he made sure that everyone knew that Jack was of lower class.
Yes, absolutely. But there's the scene where they're all at the table when he's invited to dinner.
Right.
Obviously, you've seen that he's at the head of the table.
Yep.
Where all the characters are sat as well was dependent. Were they married? Were they newly married? They had it perfectly done. Absolutely perfectly done. So it was
that's incredible. I didn't know that those kinds of, and again, I've never been to finishing school, so I just don't. I've never really, but you pick up on certain nuances and certain micro expressions. Yeah, Dre Raven in the chat, he is seen keeping up appearances. Yeah, so this woman's name was her last name was Bucket. But she told everyone her last name was Bouquet, right? Like the E and the T is silent. Her name was Hyacinth Bucket, and every time she answered the phone, she'd be like, "The Bouquet residence, the lady of the house speaking," and it was just absolutely hilarious. Dude, Patricia Rutledge. I think she was recognized for something. Maybe she's like an OBE or something like that. But okay, so
and it was also just to quickly clarify on one part of that film, Titanic. It definitely shows the masculine.
Yes,
especially at the end. You know, the men were not told to stay on the ship,
right?
Especially the orchestra and the captain. They initially knew this ship's going down. This is what I need to do. This is what men do. They stay until the ship sinks.
That's right. That's exactly right. I remember towards the end of the movie, they had the orchestra, the little 4 or 5 band orchestra. They stopped playing. All right, well, I guess this is it. And so they all start to walk away, and then they come back together and continue to play. It was almost like they felt that it was their duty. Very profound, very, very profound scene in that movie. So let's talk to me a little bit about the dressing in terms of finishing school. What do they teach women in finishing school about how to dress and when to dress?
Yeah, I mean, we did how to dress for what occasion and what was appropriate and what was inappropriate.
Okay.
And also to be able to dress for the certain weather conditions and make sure that we had what we needed for those weather conditions.
Okay.
But most definitely it was, for the actual finishing school before we went, we were actually told what we had to wear every day.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And it was that we stay covered up. And we stay covered up not only it was literally written for the respect of the other people on the course.
Okay.
And it's just respectful that we didn't have everything flaunting out.
Right, of course.
And also how to dress if you're representing your husband or your partner, how you dress for those occasions. And just so different to today. I honestly, Donovan, I would have done so well in the 50s. I was meant to be born then. I wish I was.
I always tell people I was born a decade too late. I should have been born in 1967 instead of 1977, because for me, being a teenager in the 80s in America in my early 20s, that would have rocked. when did finishing school start to become phased out? Because remember, most women used to go to finishing school, but clearly
Yes.
most women these days don't. When did finishing school stop becoming a requirement?
It stopped becoming a requirement. I think it was around I would say the 70s,
Okay.
60s, 70s. It wasn't a requirement, perhaps even before then. But I would say that it really lost everything in the 80s.
Yeah.
It was finishing schools. I think there was one finishing school in the whole of Europe around that time.
Wow.
Now they've all come back, which is great. But the shame of it is there's I went to a finishing school and the name was the finishing touch, right? Because
Okay.
I wanted it to be very old school.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted it to be very classic. But that was the only one. There was so many learn business etiquette, learn
Oh,
social
yeah.
protocol in business, and that was just not what any of us girls wanted to do. We wanted to learn the real stuff, you
Right,
know.
right. How schooled are men in this stuff? Because it sounds to me like women were taught about the protocols and etiquette. Are men raised like this to expect this from women, or is there a finishing school that men have to go to?
I don't think there's a finishing school that men have to go to, but
Okay.
my course it accepted men and women.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. But
Wow.
what was great is the people that were on our course is it was different cultures, so we already had that set
Mm-hmm.
as we would be learning about how they eat, how they behave in a marriage, how they all these things are different cultures. But if they did say if there were say 4 5 men on this course, we would be doing more practical interactions with the masculine and the feminine.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, you appear to be very traditional. You said you wanted a finishing school that had sort of a classic touch. How do you navigate with everything in 2022, what with the technology and the availability and we're in a microwave society. How do you reconcile your classic values with the technology and the advancements of today? Because I can't imagine that's easy for someone like you.
No, it isn't, and that was what a lot
Oh,
of us girls were asking
okay.
on the course. Is I loved the all the formal invites, for
Okay.
example.
Okay.
Now the royals here still use formal invites,
Okay.
but it's we don't or they're sometimes at weddings,
Mm-hmm.
but things like that is where there's social media or we'll just pop everyone a text or put everyone on a group message,
Oh
and
yeah, there's no
it's,
need for that, right?
none of this would have happened before. It
Wow.
would have been that you send the invites out, that the person gets back to you via letter, and I think we've lost that really beautiful touch,
Yeah.
and that there's no instant
Sure.
gratifications, and things were more treasured.
Human interaction was more treasured because it takes time to sit down and because they didn't have, I mean, I can't imagine they had printers just print off all these. No, they would have someone sit down and you are hereby formally invited to X, Y, and Z. And I think and when you get something like that in the mail, you get excited. I mean, am I wrong? Oh
Absolutely.
wow. Holy moly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It is really nice. I mean, I did think even with the brand that I've just started on YouTube,
Yeah, yeah.
I really, really wanted to keep the type of writing it was always written in was
Yes.
English script.
Okay,
That's the name of
okay.
the
That
font.
explains a lot. That explains a lot with the hat
Yeah,
and everything.
yeah. And the writing was English script, but I really wanted to keep an element of the traditional British culture to the
Okay.
channel, but sort of. I mean, I don't do all the editing and everything
Sure.
for my videos, but for example, the thumbnails, I really wanted something nice, but it's just not. It's either not available,
Right?
you can't get it available, or it's just not going to bring traffic in.
Sure.
Because there's not enough clashiness going on and all of this stuff. I wanted to keep it very subtle, but it's just not the way things are today.
Yeah,
But I would have loved to have kept it that way. Maybe if I do an event one day, I will have those invites sent, and I will have the tickets sent that way, and the whole event will be like that.
I think you're right. I think someone like you should have been born in the roaring 20s. That way when the 40s and 50s came, you would have been in your 20s, because this seems to be right up your alley. It really, really does. It seems that it seems like something you're very passionate about. Why does this, because you're talking about this almost with the same glow in your face as when you talk about your partner. Why is that?
It's something just so treasured.
Okay.
As part of the British culture, it's something that I still feel like I feel like even at 15, when I wanted to go, I didn't want to do the same life as everyone else was doing. And
right.
when I was 15, life was good.
Sure.
Life was happy, it was all fine.
Yeah.
But I was always interested in becoming a lady and understanding how to behave and being able to look after my partner and know how to do that in the best way I could. And so many people would say, well, you don't get your worth from a man. You don't get, and I was like, well, actually you do.
Yes.
You do. Like, I do. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's okay.
Let me ask, because this is what's very interesting about you. I don't believe you ever allowed feminism to tarnish your mind. It's almost like Allie says the same thing. She's like, I knew from a young age these feminists out here were tripping. She's like, I knew that there was something going on. You appear to have that same attitude. You've never bought into these strong and independent, I don't need no man. Why is that? Because women, I mean, we're in the same age range. Men and women our age seem to have bought into that. Why didn't you?
Two reasons. My family, my mother and my father had a good setup. My grandmother and my granddad had a good setup. And it was just honestly how I was born and wired up.
Okay.
I was completely born with this stuff. I was wired up. This is what I wanted in my life. And then obviously, my story of when I was in my teens, that I was really, really red pilled with, with other things, but it all kind of tied in together. And what was amazing about finishing school is red pill.
Of course, 100%.
It's about
100%.
rules. It's about how to behave. It's about what is really going on in people's heads that people are not saying.
Yes, because if they do, they get canceled.
Yeah, but it's honestly like a lot of like red pill stuff, like your stuff, Rolo's stuff, Richie Cooper, all these guys. It's exactly what you're saying is exactly how things actually were in the 1800s, 1900s.
Right. Yeah.
But you're just saying it in perhaps a different way or a different accent. The way it's coming forward is different.
Of course.
But back then, like, for example, on Fresh and Fit, you see a lot of the girls, I'm what do they call it? I'm making bag.
Well, they call it getting the bag. So getting the bag means getting the sum of money.
Yeah, whatever they say, I get the bag, which is just the most awful saying.
Yeah, right.
I just, and I'm independent. He's going to want me. Like, no, that back then would just be insanity.
Dude.
They'd be like, you're just going to be homeless and on the street.
Right. You'll be radioactive. Dudes are not going to come anywhere near you. They'd be like, where in the world did you get that mindset from?
Yeah. And like, I think as well, like, I understand, a lot of women are pushing for equality, are pushing to vote. I understand that's important, but personally, I'll be honest, from my side of things, I don't want to vote, and I don't think other women should be voting.
Really? Okay. Now, you know what's interesting? So we have a lot of people, a lot of what I call meathead red pill guy, repeal the 19th Amendment, blah, 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 blah. In other words, take away women's right to vote. Now, listen, the cow's already in the barn. The cow's already out of the barn. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
No.
I've never really thought about whether or not it's a good idea for women to vote, because I'm not really a political guy. But why do you see? So you said you're not interested in voting. So why do you? Well, I guess let me ask you this first. Do you think that women should have the right to vote, or does it matter only to you? It's a good question,
Again,
huh?
it's personal choice and personal preference. No,
Okay.
I don't think women should be voting.
Okay.
And I personally, I mean, don't get me wrong, I do vote, but
Sure.
I'm not. I always speak to my cousin about it massively. He really understands politics. When my father was alive, I'd say to my dad, "Who am I voting for? What am I doing?" He'd say, "Oh, vote for this," and I just do it. Because I think that men massively protect women from themselves and the mistakes that they can make. And I don't know, it's difficult because there's that where I do think that men protect women from themselves, but then there's also the side of men where they are women now. They're not acting like guys at all who could protect and provide. But I do think if femininity came into alignment with masculinity would too.
Oh, now that I agree with. If women became more feminine, men would have no choice but to become masculine, right?
Yeah,
like that would be like one begets the other. It's a self-fulfilling circular prophecy. You can't have a bunch of feminine women and a bunch of feminine men. No, if women are feminine, you got to be masculine. That's just there's just no choice. It's sort of a biological thing. And I've said this before on this podcast. I always say women, especially in the West, they live the best lives of any class of human on the planet. Women these days in the West they're safer than they've ever been. And so women women get automatic protection from men just by virtue of being women in the West. But the one thing that I always say is the one thing that a woman needs the most is she needs a man to protect her from herself. This doesn't mean that if a woman doesn't have a man, she's just going to go and drive herself off a cliff. No, but when women are left to their own devices and they start making choices, the consequences can be dire. You see, if a man messes up and goes out and philanders, okay, there are consequences. But when a woman messes around and philanders, or when she sleeps around, paternity fraud, like those are massive, massive consequences. Women have brought down empires. David and Bathsheba, Helen of Troy. I mean, you go back as far back in history as you want to. When women have control of the male id, shit goes sideways very, very quickly. So when you say, "Hey, I don't think women should vote," you're not saying that women are too stupid to vote. You just understand that women should defer to male authority. Am I wrong on that, or is that about what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not only about, asking your partner for his advice or anything like that. It's also about
sorry about that. I had to let my cat.
That's okay. It's also about asking other males in your life.
Right.
Look, this is a decision that I need to make. What do you think? And you're not taking it all on yourself. It's asking other guys what they think of that situation, because especially if it comes to, like, for example, with the channel that I've just started.
Yeah.
All the advice, all the insight I have got from men on how do I start a YouTube channel? What's the best way that I would ever get like some revenue from that? Right. How long would that take to build up? Because they're forward moving. We always talk about this. They can look in the future and say, okay, well, perhaps by this time, or set this deadline, and things that I haven't thought of, because I can sit here and have all the ideas in the world.
Sure.
Like, yeah, and then I could just destroy myself like the next
Yes.
day.
Yes. That's exactly right. And I think that, and this is the yin and yang with masculinity and femininity. Women are never chemically identical from one day to the next. You guys' hormones are always in flux. The major reason is that your body is constantly preparing itself to give life. Whether you become pregnant or not, you guys have a cycle for a reason. When you are not chemically identical from one day to the next, you might think something on Tuesday and be completely the opposite on Thursday. And I think the powers that be, I think and I think this is obvious, they manipulate the emotions of women on every level. They do this in large part with the black community, and most black people are raised by black women. So by controlling women, you're really controlling black people too in that regard. But I want to make this clear to anyone who's watching. This isn't saying that women are less intelligent than men. This isn't to say that men are better than women or that women are worse than men. There are certain things that men are better at than women, and there are certain things that women are better at than men. One of the advantages that we have to make up for our deficiency of social awareness, which you guys clearly have more of, is that our body chemistry stays the same all the time. And so our belief systems never waver. Whereas a woman's belief system, women only believe what the strongest men in their lives believe. So regardless of what her hormones or her cycle is doing, as long as there's a man to guide and protect her and to let her know, hey, this is what we're signing off on, a woman can relax and just be herself. She doesn't have to fight her emotions. She doesn't have to say, okay, I'm feeling a little bit crazy, but I don't want to act crazy. I'm not saying that women should act crazy, but this is why women need men.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this. What elements of your, how can I put this? What elements of your personality and overall relationship market value did finishing school improve? I know that's kind of a complex question, but try to answer it as best you can.
Do you know what? What it gave me is a feeling of, everything that I've believed in and everything that I've wanted for my life, that's okay. And it was like,
wow.
I was removed out of the society today, the Western world of thinking, and I was placed into somewhere where I was like, I feel at home.
Wow.
This is
really?
where I need to be.
Okay.
This is it. I could have just lived there.
Okay. Okay.
And I'd say that that's what it gave me the most.
Okay.
And it also enhanced things that I'd sort of think, is that politically correct, or is that okay to still do that in the world today? Or I wonder how people would take that. It kind of gave me the okay that it is okay to do that, and it's
okay to be a lady.
Yeah, absolutely. And it, like you said, for my relationship as well, there's just even more that I've got in my little toolkit to make it the best relationship that I want.
Good.
And to make his life easier, as well as my own. So
wow, that's incredible that we're actually
the whole motto of finishing school was, she would always say to us, one of the tutors, who was actually from the US.
What? Wow.
Yes,
I'll be damned. Okay.
Yeah, she was from the US. And she would say that this is all about how you make other people feel. It's not about you. Everything about you needs to come second. It is about how you are making other people feel all the time.
Why don't women understand? See, we as men, we derive pure joy and satisfaction by taking care of other people. And in order to take care of other people, we need to build ourselves up to become the best versions of ourselves so that we can make a good living, create a good life, so that we can take care of our women and our children. Why is it that women don't understand that putting the needs of themselves second behind the needs of others? Why don't they understand that women derive immense satisfaction from being selfless?
Sorry, just repeat that. I didn't quite.
No, that's okay. Why do women not understand that being selfless gives women an immense satisfaction. Like it's encoded in your DNA, yet women are constantly doing what is self-serving.
Yeah, they are, and it is encoded in our DNA to be selfless because we're meant to give life or have children,
Yes, of course.
And we're nurturing. So I would say I don't. This is something that I always say to you as well. I don't understand how these women are operating in being so selfish, or why that even comes. I don't know. I mean, if I really had to think about it, it might be fear.
Okay.
It might be fear
Okay.
and worried. So subconscious fear.
Yeah.
Actually they feel they might need to get everything themselves to be okay and to be safe, when actually
true.
allowing that space and being selfless and perhaps just small things they can do, like if you haven't got children, if you haven't got a partner, join a charity and volunteer somewhere, and that will just give you so much more than going after what they call a bag or whatever it is.
The bag, yeah.
It will give them a lot more of giving back something and being selfless for an hour a week.
Wow. Yeah, imagine that.
And perspective as well.
Yes. Yeah, that's very, very true. And women wonder why they're miserable. It's because they're selfish. When men are, I don't want to say when men are selfish, we're happy. But men, we have to put ourselves first, because if we don't put ourselves first, we can't help other people. That's just, and I know that a lot of people might think that that's a stretch, but that's how it is. I might actually do an episode about that. Last question here. Do you think finishing school could work for Western women today? So you take the average rank and file 18-year-old girl who's been indoctrinated by feminism, whether she knows it or not. Instead of going off to college, she goes to finishing school. Could finishing school be effective, or would it just be one giant pushback with girls are saying, you know what, this is BS. This is not what I was taught growing up. There's no way I'm doing this.
I think it would be really good. I think they'd really enjoy it.
Okay.
Because the pressure is off.
Huh. Okay.
There's nothing actually going, right, yeah, I got to get a degree, got to get all these things. The pressure is actually off, and you're able to be more receptive, more creative, more, it's a lot, the pace. Okay, the pace was quite hard with obviously the rules of the table, but the pace is slower. And I do think it would be good, but a lot of people said to me, but how are you going to use that? And I used to get, well, what's that going to give you?
Right.
What? How can you use that? Like, how is that? Like, that isn't something for your CV. And I was like, well, actually, I think it is. I do think it is. I think if I was employing someone and I saw that they'd been to finishing school.
Yeah. Oh
yes. My gosh.
Oh,
yeah, especially if it was like our specific course, the cultural stuff, the etiquette, the protocols of other countries.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, people think, oh, well, there's no point. Like, that's not going to get you anywhere. Just kind of me, selfish thinking all the time, when actually it gives you so much. Like, I was speaking to Ali about it the other night, and Ali said to me, oh, I'd love to go. I said, you must go. Wow. Must go. She would love it.
I think that there is a real need for finishing school, and I'm just thinking out loud here. If I can get all of you ladies to the CME, I think at some point, because I'm not just going to do this just this one time. I'd like to make this an annual or even a semi-annual event. I'm gonna do one a year this year and then possibly next year, but I'd like to have 2 of these per year. I would like to maybe, have you ladies put together, and of course this would have to be official and everything, but put together a sort of a femininity crash course, how to become a feminine woman over the weekend of the CME. I think that would be fantastic. I think that would help women to get the outcomes that they want, from men. Because listen, Tallulah, we can't beat women over the head and say, hey, this is how you need to be. If you want to come and learn how to be a feminine woman, come to the CME. If not, it's listen, we're not going to force you to do anything you want to do, but I think because you look at Allie was the quintessential tomboy, and now she's as feminine as they come, and all she did was decide to do it. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think maybe like a weekend boot camp, how to become a feminine woman, do you think that would be effective, or would we really just be spinning our wheels there?
I think it would be effective. I mean, there's a lot of people out there doing this. Yeah,
Okay.
it's mainly it's run by women. There are a lot of femininity coaches doing these particular courses, but they are popular.
Yes.
And also this is coming from a more perhaps at your event it would come from a more, you've come here to learn.
Yes.
No dilly-dallying around.
Yes.
This is how, we're going to tell you how to do it, and we're going to try and help you.
Okay. Yeah, to me that would be a fascinating idea, because listen, we say this all the time in this community. Women can't teach men how to be masculine any more than we can teach women how to be feminine. All we can do is say, "Hey, ladies, we want femininity." Well, how do I be feminine? All we know is, okay, listen, act like a lady, don't burp, don't curse, don't fart. But clearly, Tallulah, there is so much more to true femininity than just pretending to act like a lady. There's a deep pool of knowledge, like the salad fork goes here, and I have to accept the nearest piece of bread. All of this stuff matters. And when men are subjected to women who display this level of femininity, it does not go unnoticed, especially if you live here in the United States. Whoa, holy shit, like what is she doing? And why in the world do I feel why do I feel my body parts moving? Why is the hair standing up on the back of my neck when I watch this woman in action?
Yeah, I mean, you've just mentioned some really important things there. Like you've mentioned food, and you've also mentioned cursing. And cursing is absolutely not appropriate. Swearing should be banned for women.
Yep, I agree.
Yes, we all do slip. Slip. But it's so thrown around that, yes, men use it. It's more the aggressive, right?
Yes,
it's more the aggressive energy, which is a male energy. Is stop swearing, keep practicing, not swearing, holding your knife and fork correctly. There's a correct way to do it. You mentioned salad.
I did not know that.
You mentioned salad. Like women, when you go out on dates, if you are having food, if you are having dinner, you can have pasta or a burger tomorrow. Not on this day. On this day, you need to have a salad.
Okay.
You need to have a salad, maybe a side of potatoes or something like that. But you need to, all this will show to him subconsciously that you are more about health, that you are a woman.
Wow, this is
of course it would be, we'd all sit there and think, oh, I really want to have that bolognese, or oh, I really like that, that vegetarian pasta.
Yeah, right.
But actually think about, what is that showing to? You've got to show off your best things for this man. If you want him, you have to start being what he wants you to be.
Okay. Man,
I can go so deep with that stuff.
This is incredible. I'm not a woman, and I'm intrigued. I think that would be, oh my God, like my head is spinning right now. Let me read a couple of chats here in the comments. Very interesting comment here. So Neil Ray comments. He says, the social atmosphere is like almost dead. Only a little left. Before, you can meet girls out somewhere. Nowadays, you have to think twice when approaching a girl at a bar. You can get a sexual harassment case. I agree with that. Dre Raven says, yeah, it has gotten tough. Anytime you approach a woman these days, you have to wonder if she's going to blow her panic whistle. What are your thoughts on that? Because I think finishing school makes women much more approachable, does it not?
Yes, definitely. And we learn how to receive approaches from men. We were also taught how in 1800s, 1900s, men would pursue the woman. Right. And I would say that for any guys that are on the chat, which probably the majority of guys, right? But for the guys on the chat, don't be worried, not every single one of these women is going to slam you with a charge or harassment. It's a guy approaching you in person will double your points with that woman to being on a dating app. 100%.
Yeah.
It is, if you know how to do it right, maybe look at, Donovan's channel, these guys' channels on how you do it. That's the best way.
I agree 100%. But we have to understand that this is you talking, Tallulah. You are, and you happen to be one of the few exceptions to the rule. You're not the type of woman who's going to, oh my God, he talked to me. That's street harassment, and this is violating catcalling statutes. Talk to the ladies out there who want to know, hey, you know what? Okay, so a guy approaches me in person. I'm not going to hit him with a charge, but if I'm not interested, what's the most feminine way to reject his advance without being a bitch?
Do you know, someone actually approached me about a month ago.
Oh, did they?
And I could not believe it because men don't approach women. Obviously, I'm with someone.
Sure.
But I really respected the way that he did it. He just said, look, like, I saw you in the shop. I think you're really pretty. I'd love to take you out sometime. What do you think? And I said, I'm so sorry, I'm with someone. However, but I still priced him. I said, listen, what you have just done is like the right thing you are doing approaching women. Is always say, that is so kind of you. You receive nicely. I said that I'm absolutely flattered. That is so kind of you. Unfortunately, I am with someone.
Wow.
But, don't let that put you off if you see another girl out there that you like. I couldn't believe it. Wow. Like these days, guys don't approach women,
but they don't.
Especially women my age. Like we don't get approached anymore. Like it stops. It stops as you get older as a woman. Men do not approach you, but you have to be nice about it, and it's flattering.
Yes,
like you should be grateful that a guy is approaching you. To be quite honest,
yeah, he's putting his balls on the line. He is approaching you in public, in the face of rejection. And I think that there is a right way and a wrong way to sidestep or reject a man's advances. Hey, I'm flattered, I'm taken, but hey, listen, if you see another pretty girl, don't stop what you're doing. Now, a lot of people watching this would say, "Oh my God, what are you doing? Your guys are barking up the wrong tree and this and that and the other." This is, unfortunately, most men. And just like you said, men don't approach women regardless of age anymore, just because of the way the culture is. Anything a man says to a woman that implies that he is looking for something more than a friendship is regarded as sexual harassment. It really is. Oh my God, you want to take me out because I'm pretty? Are you objectifying me? Like this is the way that most women are. And so I think what finishing school could do is it could make you more approachable as a woman. Clearly that worked for you because men don't approach women. Yet clearly there was something about you that gave him permission in his mind. You know what? I'm going to go up and just be straight up with this woman and ask her out. And the reason why he had the balls to do that is because there was something about you that made you approachable.
Okay.
You're like, all right, I'll take your word for it.
That's really nice to hear.
Yeah. I mean, listen, guys don't approach women that they don't find attractive. Fantastic discussion, man. This was I learned a lot. Here, and I think that we could definitely be onto something. Tallulah, tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me at my new YouTube channel. Please come over and have a look at my content and subscribe. The channel is The Feminine Truth. That's The Feminine Truth. And the Instagram is The Feminine Truth, and Twitter is Feminine Truths. Very good, very good. Tallulah Johnson, thank you very, very much for joining us today. We will see you this coming Sunday at 5 British noon Eastern, if I'm remembering that correctly. Thank you guys all very much for watching. We'll see you next time.